How's that? Is that picking? Yeah, that looks like it's picking me up now. Excellent. Let's make sure this is all working correctly. Give me a thumbs up if you can hear me. Ecamm is saying it can. The wife is now calling me. She's hung up, so I guess she can hear me. So yeah, we got there. We got there in the end. Don't know what happened there. Maybe I left my headset alone for too long. So, where were we? So the camera's a little bit wrong angle because I've been playing around with it. Here we go. So, we're going to be looking at some test-driven development and how our cart is going to work using best PHP. We're going to look at how I use Shift Workbench, and also we're going to pick a random winner for Scotland PHP ticket that is being drawn tonight. I did run this earlier. Yeah, no, that's all right. That's all right, wife. Thank you. No, she was actually calling me on my phone. Oh, I just noticed my phone on top is the same colour. Maybe Dan noticed that. This is my new Jump 24 t-shirt, which I'll be wearing at the new job every day, so I'm not allowed to wash it. Right, so I did try and run this, but it broke because you can only use a search API if a tweet's older than a week, it won't work. So I'm gonna find another way to pick a little bit later. So first thing to do, let's just run Docker in the background. Away you go, Captain Whale. Off you go. So here is our shop. We have no changes. Up to date. Nothing's changed at all. We are good. And what are we? My wife actually knows Golang, so yeah, she's pretty cool. Cooler than me, anyway. It's not hard, I know, but she's cooler than me. So, what we're going to do is we're going to check out feature cart. We're going to start creating our cart. And how are we going to do this? The best place to start, I think, is going to be making sure we have some code. What's going on? It's just... Here we go, it decided to wake up at last. Episode 5, here's this. What do I need? Hey Ben, thanks for coming. So we want to basically create our shopping cart and go through how we're going to interact with it. The best way, I think, is going to be write some tests, maybe some feature tests. We're going to just create like a cart test or something. Okay, PHP Storm's playing up, so I'm just going to exit PHP Storm and just reopen that one. Love that image in the background, it looks awesome. Shop project opening, thank you. Wrong screen, because that is huge. Here we go. Here we go. New PHP file cart test. Here we go. Right, so our tests. What do we want to make sure our cart can do? When logged in, we can create a cart and it is assigned to our user. When not logged in, we can create a cart and the cart ID is stored in a session variable or something like that. I mean, the way that I want this to work, basically, this is gonna be an API. I've decided, in my infinite knowledge, that I'm gonna build an API because it's so much easier. So what we kind of want to do is we're gonna need a few endpoints for carts. Like we want an endpoint so we can say, do we have an active cart? Do we have an active cart. Once we've done that, we'll be like, okay, cool. If that's either going to say, nope, nothing for you, or it's going to say, right, here's a cart. Away you go. Go do your stuff. And then from there, what we can do is add products to a cart. So, and that will look like something like carts 1, 2, 3, 4 products, and that would be like a post request to carts products. That's adding and removing basically. We could get, yeah. Let's go through that. Let's describe our routes because it's all going to be APIs. So usually I'd go through and create like an open API file and do all that sort of stuff, but it's kind of beside the point of what I'm trying to do on this series. So I'm not going to. So here's our cart routes. We want to prefix everything with cart, plural, as carts. Then we're going to group my usual misspelling of function, which I'm very, very much used to. So the first route, get all authenticated users, or you're not really going to have a slash carts, are you? Everything to create a cart. So create a new cart. That would be a post request, which is going to go to the first forward slash. That I'm assuming is going to be in HTTP controllers API v1 carts store controller, and we're going to give this a name of store, something like that. So API cart store, that makes sense. Then we're going to have another one for adding a product. So is that how I want to do it though? Carts add, carts remove. This is starting to feel how do I want this to work? Products. That's kind of what you want to do, right? Sorry, is that feeling a bit sad? Let me skip that. It is the Lord of the Rings soundtrack. How about a session cart, a single source of truth, and it just stores a copy if user logged in on the session. Because it's going to be API based, so sessions are kind of not working. Oh, you're not the only one. Oh, why is it? I'm not straight over it. Stop it. Stop it. Add to broadcast. There we go. Function. Yeah. Gonna get some funk. So, when I want to update cart, what do I want to do? Do I want to... How do I want this to work? Like, because we're using aggregates and stuff, we want to track things as they go through, right? We don't want just a plain old, here's an update, give me some information, because that's kind of boring. Surely there's a nicer way we can do this. Surely we could do something like, well, that's adding a product to the cart, and then maybe we could do a patch request to carts 1, 2, 3, 4 products A, B, C, D, and we can have an addition on that to that's changing the quantity, right? That's changing the quantity. We can figure that one out. Then we're going to have like a delete request to carts 1, 2, 3, 4 products A, B, C, D. That's going to delete the item completely. yeah, this is I think this is starting to make a little bit of sense. So updating the cart, or we create the cart, we want to add a product to the cart, or add a something to the cart. So we will do root post. Let's do that for now, because we need to figure out how we're going to do some of this right now. So app HTTP. Let's just go straight up to v1. No. Controllers. Controllers. API. v1. Why is this being silly now? Okay, let's just grab that. Here we go. v1. And then within there, we're still going to be going for like the carts. And might change the naming, so create new cart. So we just do like a create controller. That's invocable, and then we would do add product controller. I don't usually go so namey with these classes, to be honest. So I can come back to it in a minute when I kind of think of how naming should work. Add product. Then we're going to do a update quantity. So that is going to be a patch request to cart products cart item app. Ooh, wow, what happened there? App HTTP controllers API v1 carts. It's a little bit namey, isn't it? Is that what I want? We'll see. We'll see. Technically, that should be going to. If we're going to go restful, it needs to do something like that. So products, store controller. There we go. Well, store products fine, but store controller. If I'm going to follow my usual convention, so carts, products, update controller. And we're going to give this a name of update. Let's store again, so we could do like product store, products update. Then we have a delete as well, so we should be able to delete a product from the cart. So this will be a delete request, which is going to be that again. Yep. And basically then we're going to have, yeah, well, let's just copy that. Here we go. There we go. And we're going to go to the delete controller, delete, focus delete. So there we go. That's kind of how we're going to do the naming convention for those. So now we can just say not right now. Let's make sure everything is up to date. So our first test is going to be we can create a new cart, right? So it can create a new cart. So we need like a, do we have a cart already? So get the user's cart. Ooh. We'll just do a root get. We should only have one, so app HTTP controllers API v1 carts index controller, and we're going to set the name of that route to be index. Standard, relatively standard stuff going on. So, okay, we're going to ignore that now. So, it. Okay. How are we going to handle carts for unauthenticated users? We'll get to that in the tests, I think. Definitely get to that in the tests. Right. Tell you what we'll do. We can create a cart. So we'll do the creating first. It can create a cart as an gated user. So it draws the cart ID. No, that's not what. When we create, we want to return it because we got to think about more as an API, not as carts. So the default behavior when working with an API is because it is stateless. You create a cart and it gives you it back. You can then keep working with that cart. So in theory, there's no difference between these two. If we go to our carts table, user ID is currently nullable. So it doesn't matter if we haven't got user ID right now. That is fine. What we do need to do is it creates a cart for an unauthenticated user. So we don't. Luckily, because we're going to be using Sanctum, we don't actually need to worry about authentication, any sort of authentication, because we're just going to use Sanctum Auth. I do need to install that actually. So composer require Laravel require. I've not actually installed Sanctum from scratch before, so let's see what I need to do on that one. Let's go to Laravel docs, packages, Sanctum, installation. Right, let's move this over to here. That's installed. Publishing complete. So API, I need to add this in our kernel. In our API, we need to make sure we have got that. It's not installed by default anymore. No, this didn't use Jetstream or anything. Migrations, Sanctum migrations. We migrate everything. Apparently not. Overriding default models. No, not interested in that right now. No API token authentication, issuing tokens. So user has API tokens. Not what I'm interested in right now. Shouldn't need to do any of this, I don't think. So, just to test. Ooh. Code, sites, shop, go. So we've got a Sanctum cross-site request forgery thingy. Hey, yeah, it's going good. I'm just going through Sanctum. I've never installed it from scratch before. Pretty sure it just works, right? You just install it and away you go. Yeah, I'm not seeing anything. Personal access tokens. Okay, maybe it is there. Oh, the date's a bit off. Okay, now we can live with that. Well, we got date. We got all that working. So we now have that ready. So it creates a cart for authenticated users. So what we want to do is we want to do a post request, and the URI that we want to go to is API v1 carts store. You know, a post request to there. We don't really need to give it anything, and that should simply just go, right, cool, here's a cart. So we should assert status HTTP created, and it will give us content. But for now, let's just go through this. Edit configurations, pest, xdebug, project, apply, okay, go. Are you going to do it? Oh, we failed something. So, our routes. We need to create our routes. So, now let's go through and start creating some of these. So, this is going to be getting the user cart. This is creating a cart. So, let's go for that one first. Make a control for API v1 carts create, or store controller we're going to call it. Wow, caps lock. Store controller, and this is going to be invocable. API v1 cart store controller. There we go. So this can now be a store controller, which means I can click through and it will go to it and it's working, which means I can run my tests. Failed asserting that 201 is identical to 200. Perfect. We are hitting the root. So in our store controller, what we want to do is basically create a cart. That's it. That's literally all we need to do. So let's come down to here. Customer, you're going to want some actions, please. Actions. New. PHP class. Create cart. Yeah, I think you can do assert created, but I like to be really specific with status codes if I'm honest. Domain customer actions. It's not extending anything, and what we want to do is public function handle. This needs to be a public static function handle, and what we want this to do is to return a cart. So this is going to take some data and just return a cart. So return cart query create. It's actually going to return a model, eloquent model. Import that class. There we go. Assert teapot 418. So what we want to do here is we want to start looking at factories, and we want to start looking at how we're going to handle some of this. How do we want to make a default cart? So first thing is factories. So we're going to want a factory to create a new, here's our cart factory. So create a new cart. This is going to have a really simple static make, public function make, which is going to take an array of attributes, and it's going to return a cart value object, which we will create shortly. So we go return new cart value object, and all that we need in that cart value object is status and a potential user ID, right? So status is going to be attributes status, and then having issues with sound. Let me go. You can. No, it's picking up okay for me. I can turn the volume down on the music in case it's kind of cutting in like that. So the other thing we're going to want is the user ID is going to be attributes user ID. Like that. So now we can come to customer and go create some value objects or data transfer objects, whichever you would like to call them. I call them value objects out of habit. Don't feel you have to do the same. Don't feel you have to do anything that I do, basically. Construct. Only thing you should do that I do is make sure you define a standard and stick with it. That's all you should have to do. So the cart that we're going to be creating is going to have a public string status and a public int nullable int user ID. That is all it needs to have. We're also going to do a public function to array on this one. It's raining lots where I am, so my internet might dip a little bit, but hopefully it's okay. We're going to return an array where the status is this status and the user ID is this user ID. So that's for in the database, basically. Return array, and that specific array is going to be key value. But what we need to do is we can start to add some template tags if people really want to. We can say template t key and template t value. T key and t value. Static analysis sort of stuff. Hey, Di, how you doing? First time you've joined me on stream or said hi while I've been on stream. Good to see you. So that's just going to basically return this as, well, as an array, basically. That's kind of the purpose of it, right? We've got some types going on in there. So now with our factory, we can import that one. And we may as well start adding some of it, because I'm really getting into do more static analysis, and yeah, kind of have to have doc types in there. A little bit annoying sometimes, but we'll live with it for now. So there's that. Here's our create cart. That is going to accept a cart value object as cart, and we're going to create cart to array. That has basically just tied all that up nicely. So our cart factory creates a cart value object, which we later on use in our action just to turn it to an array. So in here, all we got to do is say cart equals create cart handle, and the value object that we're going to need is cart factory just make sure we got the right one. That one. There we go. Make, and the attributes are going to be there's that one, and so basically the status is going to be pending. We're going to turn that into an enum later, and then the user ID is going to be auth ID or null, basically. Yeah, I'm going to walk through this again, Bernard, don't worry. I do fly through it sometimes, so I do apologise. I will step back through it. So, what we want to do here is let's just tidy up some of that formatting because we want it to look nice. So, what we got? Our request hits our routes file, and we come over to this store controller. This store controller gets the request, and all it's going to do is call our create cart action. And what I'll do to make this simpler, I'll put what we're doing over here. We're going to create a cart action over here, and that takes a value object. So the cart that we're going to pass through is coming from our cart factory, which is over here. And all that's going to do, that's going to accept an array of attributes, which we're just going to pass through like this. When I'm on the laptop in the evening, I miss. Yeah, no, that's fine. I don't mind. So what I want to do actually is cart status pending. That should be fine. There we go. Cart status pending, and the user ID is either auth ID. If that comes back as null, then null, basically. So that should create a cart. So now if we come over and test again, we're getting some sort of crazy error coming up here somewhere. Ooh, type error. Argument status must be of type string. Cart status given. Ooh, pending. Value. There we go. We got something. So we've got a cart coming at this point, right? So now we could probably die and dump on a cart, and that'll give us. Nope. Test. There we go. This is a cart, right? This is pending, null, cart, model cart. Yeah, we are good to go at this point. We've got a cart and we can return it. So let's return. Let's create a new JSON response. How can we do this? I've not used it this way before. Should we do it this way? We have a data and a status. So the data is going to be cart for now, and the status is going to be HTTP created. And that is going to return a JSON response. And we're good. That's now passing. So we got that one to green. So we can write unit tests for these, but you've seen me write unit tests for this sort of stuff before. I've run through one of them just for, I suppose, for the sake of it, really. So we'll create a directory for factories. And all we want to do is create a cart factory test. And like this test, all it really needs to do is, if we come to a cart factory, all this is doing is, not that one, the domain one, cart factory there. It takes an array of attributes and it returns a value object. We don't really need to do this, but we're going to do it for the sake of it. So it can create a cart value object. Yeah, that's that's it. Okay. So expect cart factory, make the attributes are status test and the user ID is 1. So yeah, no problems. Craig, you enjoy your dinner, buddy. I'm actually hungry again. Why am I hungry again? So we're going to expect that to be an instance of cart value object. And then we're also going to say we're going to expect status to be test. So let's just run that. There we go. So cart factory test. It can create a cart value object. That's fine. We don't really need to go through that because, you know, very little is going to go wrong. I'm not going to go through that on stream. I'll write them out a little bit later on. So we can do that. We can create a cart, whether they're logged in or not. They then receive that cart object. Good to go. However, we need an actual resource. So make resource. Have we got a cart resource yet? I do not believe we do. So we're going to quickly just check that. Resources, no. So let's just go through and quickly create that. Here's our cart resource. So this is what I'm using API resources from Laravel by default right now until a new package is released. Who was it I was watching the other day? It was someone really cool. Tim McDonald, I believe. Yep, Tim McDonald. JSON API. Repositories. I'm pretty sure he pushed something up to it earlier. Here we go, JSON API. This package is going to be amazing when it's ready. Not quite ready yet, but I'm waiting for it. Feel free to check it out. I'm going to chuck it in the chat quickly. This is really an amazing project that's going on at the minute. Tim streams. Make sure you check him out. He is smart cookie. I don't know where to find him on. Here he is on Twitter. Check him out on Twitter. That's Tim McDonald. He streams. Chuck that in the chat too because he's a legend. Go check him out. He's awesome. Just go find him. Right. So the cart. What do we want our cart to be? We kind of need the we need the cart ID to start with. So that is going to be. Okay. So this is where we actually need to think, isn't it? Damn it. We need to think. We don't like thinking. Right. So now that we know we're going to go through an API, do we want to use keys like I set up, or should we switch over to UUIDs? Because I mean, UUIDs are a little bit more common when it comes to an API, and because it's really hands-off, I think for stuff like carts it'll be fine. So what I need to do, I think, is come over to our migration, find our carts table, add in a UUID. And we're just going to drop a UUID in there. So there's our UUID. We got one. We're good to go. And we're going to add unique. Not that it should ever need it, but we're adding unique in case, you know, I mess up for any reason. The database is going to stop any breakages. Yeah, that's cool. So now we can come back down to our models. Come to our cart. Add in a UUID. I don't know if I've created this yet, so we're just going to test the naming. Yep, already created it. Perfect. That's just got a static, has key. So we're going to drop the key from the cart. I don't think it's needed anymore, which is fine. I am more than happy with that. Cart status, yeah, that's all cool. we want this to be rooted, so we're just going to add in, like when we're using UUID, we're just going to add something extra on here. Get root key name. Get root key name. We're just going to return that as a string, and we're just going to return UUID. This is kind of what I typically do, although then in our roots themselves, when we're trying to get a specific cart, I will also UUID it just because you can override. Right, so that is that. Cart can go. We're probably going to have to update the factory, cart factory. No, that should be fine. Yeah, we'll give it a go. Let's just migrate and refresh. Let's go. Hey, thanks for joining, buddy. Good to see you. We haven't done too much. Nothing that's gonna confuse you at any point. We have carts again. Things are still working. We are good to go. Right. So our cart resource. Our ID for our cart is going to be UUID. The type is going to be a cart. The attributes are going to be we don't need the actual ID, so we can just pass that through. The status is going to be status. Right, what we got? There we go, cart. So we don't need that. We got a coupon. So let's add coupon. The code is this coupon, and the reduction is going to be this reduction. I keep doing that. There we go. Reduction, and we're going to have a total. So we can just quickly drop in a total, and we've got a user ID. Don't really need to add that in. So status coupon total reduction. That's good for me. I'm happy. The other thing we need to then add is relationships. Now I did this before and it just kind of went a little bit pear-shaped, so I'm just going to go double check because this is something I always forget. Product resource. So new category, blah blah blah, this one loaded. Great, got it. So basically a cart has items. Items. And this is going to be a cart item resource collection where the resource is this when loaded there, right. So a make resource cart item resource. That's now loaded. Perfect. So cart item resource. Basically, I'm just going to keep that as it is for now because I'll focus on that later. I need to look at a nice way to play around with that. So instead of passing back cart, let's pass back a new cart resource where the resource is the cart. Don't do that. Right, and then test. Perfect. Our cart is working. So, our cart test. It can create a cart for an authenticated user. Perfect. Set the JSON path of So our response should be wrapped in data, type, cart. Maybe. We'll see. Run. Let's just quickly fix this one. That's failed. So let's just deep dive into our test. So failed asserting that null is identical to cart. So there's our response. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to pull that out. Response is that. Let's just die and dump on the response a minute to see what we're actually getting. So here's our response. So we should be able to get JSON. Do I have the structure of a database written somewhere? I just pull it from. So this is actually all in github.com shop. Drop that link in the chat for you now. So feel free to have a look on GitHub for that one. So I can get the response JSON. So is that how I want to do it? So I can say response. There's a really nice way to do testing. For new testing. Fluent JSON testing. Here we go. So this JSON, assert JSON, JSONable type. Perfect. So I can assert JSON, which accepts assertable JSON. And then we can do something like JSON where, oh, I don't need that. So this where takes two values. I haven't used this for a while. Anyway, let's just grab that so I don't mess it up. So we're just going to go, may as well just tag this on. Post, do that. Assert JSON stuff. Do your JSON-y magic. Expect ID. No, we're going to expect type to be the cart. And we're going to expect, okay, we're going to skip that. We're also going to say user ID to be null. Yeah, can't type. And then we're going to say attributes.userid. This should be a cart status pending label. Let's see if that works. Property attributes user ID does not exist. What am I actually getting within here? We don't know. Yep, we're just dying here. Okay. I'm going to turn this into an actual function so we can actually control it a bit nicer instead of a shorthand function. So here's our function. Let's just close that off. And we're just going to say down dump on the JSON so we can see what we're actually working with in here. So we got JSON when we can say we don't have a user ID. That's fine. We're not actually giving that back, are we? So that can disappear. Cart status. Simplified that one. Now we can run a test and it works. So all we're doing here is running a quick function and saying okay, so create a new cart. We expect status to be created and we expect JSON to have a type of cart and the status to be pending. We shouldn't have a UUID, a user ID because we're not actually passing that through, and that's fine. That is kind of what we're expecting. So there's our first cart test. So that's how we'd create it. We just do a quick post request, no body, no content, no nothing, just please create me a cart. Away we go. We then return a cart object, but what we want to do is our cart is, let's come up here quickly, and just to make sure, pruning models, we need to have something in the background, right? So we want to say use prunable on our cart. So probably going to be around here. Use prunable, import that class, and it means we want this basically. So drop this right down the bottom. Prunable builder. So static where created at is now basically query where anything older than a month, cart wise, just delete it. We're not interested anymore. It's an abandoned cart at that point. It's like a proper abandoned cart, and we're going to prune it. We're not going to worry about event sourcing that. We're just going to go away it goes. Maybe we could look at tapping into events or something later on. Yeah, prepare the model for pruning, schedule model prune daily. So in our console kernel, where we're going to schedule model prune daily, done. We can now rest easy knowing that we're not going to get a massive build up of carts that's going to lock our database, and we're going to just be really upset basically. So we can create a cart. Step 1, get a cart for that user. If they're logged in, we can get the cart, otherwise it's a no content sort of deal. So how can we write a test for this? Do we have an active cart? It returns a cart for a logged in user. So auth login and get a user. It's going to get the first one. Login expects something that's authenticatable. So there's our user. Here is our okay. It's authenticatable. So let me just quickly run it and just make sure it's not going to die. Ooh. Null given. Have we not got any users? Okay, so let's just go user factory create. Here's our user. Why is that failing? What's changed? Testing. Oh no, that's fine. That bit's fine. I can live with that. So return a cart for a logged in user. So now we can do a post. What can we do? Maybe on our cart resource we do kind of have to add that user ID, right? Cart user. We're going to add it. Don't really want to add it, if I'm honest. We can add it as an optional parameter, perhaps. How can we do this? Turns a cart for. Okay, so we don't actually want to do that, do we? Okay, are we going the long way around for this? Because we don't really want to create a user, create this, create that. It's a little bit kind of long-winded. Surely I can kind of shortcut this by just saying, okay, create me a cart and hit that endpoint as said user. So here's my cart, factory, create. Simplify that one. There's my cart. My user is cart user. Let's just quickly dump on that. Make sure it's actually working as expected. Yep, we got that. And then we're going to do an auth login with the cart user. Login using ID, cart user ID, so we don't have to do double queries. That gives us a new user. So now we should be able to do a GET request where the URI is API v1 carts index, and we assert the status code is going to be HTTP OK. For now, we're just going to do that. Right, that failed. Perfect. Cards index not defined. So now we can come to our roots. How can we start? We can start to create it. So a make controller. There's our store controller. So we just need to create an index controller basically. So that one, which means I can click through. And what we want to do is if we fail the auth check, basically what we want to do is return a new response where the content is null and the status is HTTP. No content. If we are logged in, then we want to return new JSON response where the data is new cart resource, where the resource is going to be auth user cart. And the status is HTTP. Okay. So that's got to be basically Symfony response. And we passed. So we've got the cart where there is one. That could be null. So if auth check fails, or there is auth user cart count. Try that again. There we go. So basically, if we fail authentication, like we're not logged in, just give a null response because you've not got one yet. And we're stateless, so there's nothing saved. You have to give us an ID to get, or the authenticated user has no carts created, then just return a null response. Otherwise, return the cart. Nice and simple, I guess. I mean, there won't be that many chances where you just got to get the cart, but we're going to add it anyway. So, what other tests might we need to do? Creates a cart for a logged in user. It returns a not found status when a guest tries to function. So basically we want to do that. There we go. So I wanted to ask you, good resource to learn about PSRs. I'd love to fully follow them in my work. There's a lot of different ways you can follow PSRs. Some better than others, some worse than others. It depends which PSRs you want to follow as well. If it's PSR 7, then you can make Laravel PSR 7 compatible really easily. If it's other PSRs, it really depends. Laravel already follows a couple of PSRs anyway. So just let me know which ones you're interested in, and I'll see how I can advise on that one. So, do we have an active cart? That's kind of done. Models user, gone. That's fine. Adding products to cart. Let's just ignore that for now. Can we now add a product to our cart? So let's just close some of these and we'll worry about what we need to do next. Adding a product to the cart is next. So we want to create a new controller. Carts, products, store controller. So carts, products, store controller, go. PSR 17 factories. I typically, I don't play around with that one if I'm honest. That is one that I just use a package for. I typically use this one. So for PSR 17, I just follow this one. PSR 17 is all about creating PSR 7 messages. That's all it's to do with. So you need to understand PSR 7 fully to basically do PSR 17. It's just a factory pattern for PSR messaging. That's all that is. So where was I? I want to add a product to the cart. So to do that, we need to obviously do some validation here. I want to start looking at validation for this one. Not a problem. So make a form request, API v1, and we're going to create carts product request. Product request. So we can now go through and validate. So what we want to do is it can add a new product to a cart. So what we want is obviously a cart to be working with. Let's get that cart ready to go, and we are going to want to do a post request to a specific URI, which is root API v1 carts products store, if I remember rightly, and then I'm going to assert the status is going to be HTTP. Okay, actually no, we want to add a cart, so we accepting that response. We're not creating anything, we're accepting, or actually, there we are. Created. So, test fails, so missing required parameter. So we aren't passing the cart through, that's fine. So, cart UUID. We're now getting past routing. And we're getting the wrong code. So, validation-wise, what do we need to make sure is happening, basically, for our cart? When we're adding a product to the cart, we're going to be creating a product, a cart item. So, let's go have a look at cart item. We need basically, what is it, the ID of it, and how many of it, in effect. So, rules. We need to know the quantity is required, must be an integer, and I'm pretty sure there's like a greater than, like GTE or something like that. Greater than 0 is kind of what we want to say there. So let's the quantity field is required. Excellent. That is that one. The next part of validation we want to worry about is a purchasable ID. We can't really do much checking with this one. I don't know if there's any good ways to check some polymorphic stuff on validation, because you can't do like a exists very easily. So purchasable type, that is going to be required. Well, the ID actually is going to have to be an integer. Purchasable type is required. It's going to have to be a string, and it's going to have to be one of the purchasable types, basically. So the only things we can add to our cart is going to be a variant and a bundle. So that part is done. Cart ID is going to be passed through the request params anyway. That is fine. That is done. That is happy clappy. Away we go. So we should be passing by this point. So we just need to add content of some description to this, which is here. So our data is going to be undo that. There's our data. The data that we want to send across is going to be quantity. So let's say we want to pass, and we want to say we only want one. Product type, what can we get? Let's create a variant. Variant equals variant factory create. So our purchasable ID is going to be the variant ID, and the purchasable type is going to be variant. So when we test purchasable ID, okay, I've got some typos. Purchasable ID, purchasable type. So that bit is fine. We are passing validation. So after we've validated, what we want to do? This is where we need to look at creating, basically. So much like we did with our cart, how long we got? We've got an hour and 14. That's cool. We got plenty of time. So controllers, API, cart, store controller, create cart, cart factory, do your job, away we go. So what we need now is another factory. So let's just close some of these down so we know where we're going. In the customer action, we want to create an add product to cart. This needs a static handle method, public static function handle, and this is going to return a cart item. So this needs to take in an array of attributes. I think, no, it needs to take in something else. It needs to take in a cart item value object. Cart item. This is going to return a model. We can say return cart item query. We want to create based off of cart item to array. That is all we need. So now we can go through create the factories. So create a new PHP class called cart item factory. This is going to have a public static function make, which accepts an array of attributes, and it's going to return a cart item value object. Return new cart item value object, and the cart item needs to take in the following bits of information. Cart item factory, so it's going to take in the quantity. Let me grab that, so I need this. I want the quantity. I'm going to want the purchasable UUID the purchasable type and we kinda need to add the cart in there. No, we don't. No, we don't. We're good. We're good. Perfect. That should be it. Yep, that's everything. So next thing we need to do is create this cart value object. So in our value objects, we can say create a new cart item value object like this. And let's give the factory on this side so that when we're creating it, we can focus a little bit. Cart item value object. So in our constructor, public function construct, what we need is we need a public integer for the quantity. We need a public integer for the purchasable ID. And we need a public string for the purchasable type. So now if I just quickly import that one. Purchasable ID. That's all looking good. So now we just need to an array, public function to array, which is going to return an array. We can start to add all of the things that we're going to need. T-key and T-value, and we're just going to return. I mean, if this was just returning an array of strings, it would be really easy to do. So technically we don't need T-key, but for now I'm leaving it. Quantity is going to be this quantity. The purchasable ID is purchasable ID, and the purchasable type is purchasable type, and that is that. That connects to that. That connects to that. Add product to cart. All we now have to do is import that and cart item query. We can also pass in a cart here, and instead of doing it this way, we can do a return cart items create cart item to array, and that does the same thing, just a little bit neater. So our store controller we've validated. We could do like authorization at this point, but I don't think we need it because anybody can create a cart. So all we need to do is cart item equals add product to cart handle. So the cart item is the cart item factory make, where the attributes are the request validated. Required parameter cart is missing, so make that this also accepts cart in here. So cart item cart return new JSON response, where the data is a new cart item resource, where the resource is cart item And because it is a newly created thing, we need to do HTTP created. Which means we can say JSON response. And we are now passing. So, I will walk you through that because I probably went through that a little bit fast. We send a request to the create basically add a product to the cart route. We pass through a cart UUID because that's part of the route model binding, which you can see here. We pass through the data for quantity, the purchasable type, and the purchasable ID. So we're going to pass through this newly created variant, and then we're just going to assert that, yeah, we got it. We're pretty happy. We could go through and start to assert shapes of a JSON. I don't think we need to at this stage. We could do. There's nothing stopping us. So we could go through just like we did in this one, assert JSON, and start to go play around with that. So we could go into here and assert double JSON stuff. And we could say, okay, so what we're expecting back, this is obviously now going to fail, but what we're expecting back, we want it to kind of look like this. So I'll make that pass in a moment. So what we want to do now is we hit this store controller, we go through validation. Quantities there, purchasable ID and purchasable type, they're our kind of our minimum. I'd probably make this optional realistically, but I'm going to enforce it for now. Then we just hit the add product to cart method action, passing through the cart item factory which is going to return a value object, our cart item value object, which we're just going to pass through the validated request data with. So, you know, time back to the request, nice and easy. Everything's been validated. Let's pass it back through to here. This is doing lots of kind of structured validation along the way, because as we go to add this to here, we're going to come over to the cart item factory. So this is an array that's got to come through, that's fine. But this stuff here, we're pulling out specific keys to the array, which are then going to match up to these. We've already done certain validation, now we're just doing type validation. T-key T-value. And we're just going to add that in there too. So there we go. That bit's fine, that bit's fine. Then we're just returning a new response with the cart item resource, which we can now just play around with. So the ID is going to be the cart item. So again, just like before, we need to go through, have a look at our migrations, go through to cart items. Instead of having that, we're going to have a UUID for UUID. Which means in our factories, cart item factory, we can't create one. I'm going to go through, just quickly create this faker number between 1 and 12. The Tiki purchasable ID. Let's just create a variant for now. Variant factory. Just going to add variants for now, and we'll worry about fixing things a little bit later. So I can get a variant ID and the purchasable type is going to be variant, and the cart ID is going to be cart factory create t. So I'm just going to keep it as that for now, nice and simple. Which means that when we come down to the models for cart item, we need to remove key and pop in UUID and say, instead of has key, we're going to say has UUID. And that means we can now remove that because it's not being used. And we can migrate fresh, see what's failing. Cut item resource, so I can come back to here and say this UUID. Let's just run that again, make sure it's all good to go. So Bernard, let me just, while that's doing its business, I'm going to walk you through that quickly. So T key, T value. That is a way to say, so with part of PHP 8 or static analysis in general, you can have templates. And the idea of a template is to say, right, okay, so this is like a template class, and anytime I say I am returning an array, and the second argument is, like, let's say this was, we could also create a template for that. What this is going to return, or what this creates, is this will when you hit the constructor, you're creating a new template for that. And what T key and T value is doing is saying, okay, because we know that bit's always string, we could turn that to string, and that'd be fine. But this, it could be string, but we don't know. That's not always going to pass, because we've got ints in here too. But we can't do integers in here. We can't say that this is our array shape, because we've got one string. So we've got to do a T value, which means we should technically be able to get rid of T key, because this is a keyed array, and the only time where this would be an integer is if we dropped that and we're getting the index. Happy to have a talk about that another time, Bernard, but I've been streaming for around 29 minutes, and I will make sure I get some of this done. Hit me up on Twitter or something, and I can talk to you about static analysis. Right, so where was I? So I got the UUID there. The type that we're going to create is going to be a cart item. The attributes are going to be ID is this UUID. What else is in the cart item? Drop that over there. Cart item resource, we got ID. We're going to have quantity is this quantity. Just do something like this. Item is the item ID is this purchasable ID, and the type of item that it is the purchasable type, and that's all we want in there. So then for relationships, we can have our cart, and we can return a new cart resource, and the resource we want to pass through is this when loaded, and the relationship we want to pass through is this cart. There, done. So that's our cart pulling through. That gives us all of that information, so we can now come through here and say where the type is cart item, where the attributes quantity is 1. We can also say where attributes dot item dot id is variant id. Yeah, I guess you could say that. Yeah, JS. Oh, okay, we failed. So what died? Array key exists. Must be a valid array offset type. Has relationship. Stack trace. Ooh, I think that was on the here. Maybe. Let me go have a look at how some of that was put together quickly, in case I've just completely mind farted. When was the last time? That is a very good question. I don't know when the last time I shaved was. Quite a while ago. I do. I kind of tickle my children with my beard now. Some of them like it, some of them don't, but most of them they don't mind it. Right, category. Relationship needs to be a string. This one loaded cart. And we passed. That's simple. So, basically, we are good. So, we've done TDD of creating a cart, adding a product to the cart. We haven't done updating the cart, but we've only got a little bit of time left. So, I'm now going to focus on refactoring. So, let's just close all of that. We've got our tests, they're passing green. We now need to work with our aggregates because we had them before, right? So we want to come down here and we want to say, okay, so in our controller, API, cart, create cart, this is doing all of this. Here's our cart. We basically want to be able to say, right, let's create a new UUID quickly. UUID to string, done. Our cart is our cart aggregate, retrieve, UUID. Do we not have like a create cart? Add product and remove product. Okay, so we're not actually doing that in there. That's fine. We can skip it for that. Just make sure we clean up. That bit's all good. So in our products store controller, in here. So there's our UUID. Our cart item, what we want to do is cart aggregate, retrieve. Actually, instead of that, we could just say pass through like the cart UUID. So that retrieve is going to accept a UUID. So UUID is, we're just going to pass through the cart UUID because why not? And we're going to say add product. The purchasable ID is going to be request get purchasable ID. The type is going to be request get purchasable type. The cart ID is going to be cart ID. Persist. So now if I do a quick line dump on cart item persist, I'm not sure what that returns. It returns the aggregate root. So we're not actually going to be able to do any of this. So I might have just done a lot of this for no reason really. Which is fine because we're doing it locally. So our front end will add product to the cart. That'll be fine. back end being stateless, it doesn't need to return the new product. It's simply like, yeah, cool, created it, off we go. So let's just refactor. We want to do that. So let's just return a response instead. Instead of that, content is going to be null. Prepare the response. We don't need any of that. Sort those arguments out. Return a new response where the content is null. And the status is that. That is obviously going to break my tests, but I'm expecting it to. Invalid JSON was returned. So now we can come back to our test and make sure that is testing what we actually need it to test. Cart test. Can add a product to the cart. Here's a cart. There's the variant. We're going to do that, and we're not going to assert any JSON. So that, in theory, works. Perfect. So now what we can do, sparsely, 5 event sourcing. Let's just do some quick event sourcing on this one, hey? Because we did talk about we were going to do them, right? So, adding money, blah, 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 doing stuff, off we go, right? A cart aggregate test. Product was added. New product was added. We kind of tested that. So we don't need to double test it, do we? We tested that last time. So it adds a new product to the cart. We're doing a feature test on the cart itself. And here's my cart aggregate test, where we can store an event for adding a product. So what we can probably do now is, if we just go to table plus, come to localhost, come down to shop. Hey, no problem, Maker. I hope you're doing okay, mate. Let's just come and have a look in here. So here's our cart. We've got some carts. They're all abandoned at the minute. So let's just go to our stored events. What we kind of want to do instead, maybe, on the cart test is we want to do like some database testing, maybe, instead. So pest PHP, let's just go have a look at that. And what we can probably look to do is expectations. We want to look for database. Datasets, how working with datasets. I don't really want to do that. I want to kind of say, I'm working with Laravel. I want to be able to say get, expect to be collection, test with description, assert JSON. Okay, so maybe it is somewhere in here instead. So eloquent testing, database testing. We want to say available assertions. Assert database count, assert database has, assert deleted, assert model exists. Yeah, first time I've had the lighting on. So I suppose with database, all we could do here is say like make sure that the Laravel stored event is there. Yeah, we can't really test much more than that, right? I mean, maybe after we've done that, we could just do a quick dump for now on the eloquent stored event query all. Right, okay, undefined method query builder all. Let's get test. Cool, we got some. So we got a product was added to cart, product was added to cart. Apparently, no, that's just one. My bad. Okay, so beforehand, what we could do is do a very simple expect to be an instance of no, that's just not going to work, is it? To have count 0. And then we can do the other stuff. Then we can do the other thing right at the end and say, okay, so now we should have stored one event. That's something really simple like that, right? Cool. So basically all we're doing, we've not stored any events at this stage in our test. We then go through and say, right, here's our cart, here's our variant, send a request, and make sure we've got a stored event. We could even go as far as saying expect the eloquent stored event query first. What we could do is we could get that item and we could say something like, say the event class is expect event class to equal product was added to cart, product was added to cart, class. Let's quickly simplify that one, see if that works. Basically, it's just, we know it's been added. Error. Failed asserting null matches that. Okay, we're just going to quickly tap and we're just going to die and dump. No, we can't do that. How are we going to get that? How are we going to get that? We've got the event class, event properties. We kind of want to make sure that this first one is there. We go. That's better, right? Let's just do that. There we go. Nice. That's simple. So all we're doing is okay. So we don't have any stored events. Let's create our test data. So now let's just add a product to the cart. Assert that the status is correct, which is basically saying, yeah, cool, good to go. No validation errors, no 500 errors, nothing's going wrong. And then we can say, okay, so in theory, we've got to this point, there's no validation errors. Perfect. Our next step, let's run that. Okay, so that is going to dispatch jobs, do stuff, that's all good, and return the status. Now our status matches, but we want to make sure that we've now stored an event because that's what we're expecting to happen, and that the stored event is actually a product was added to cart. That is all we really need to test there. And that to me is pretty good start. So let's git add, git commit, adding products to our cart and creating a cart TDD. I'm just going to quickly push that one up. Obviously, feel free to have a look at this feature cart. I'm not going to create a pull request right now. I'm gonna, my next stream is probably going to be on more cart behavior. So I'm going to keep this branch running for a little while, and then on Thursday, what we're going to carry on with, I think, is we can then look at updating the quantity and deleting a product, all TDD and all event sourced. So that is where we are. We can get a user's cart, we can create a cart, we can add a product to the cart. Cart testing, we have tested that we can create a cart for an authenticated user. It returns a cart for a logged in user. returns a no content status when a guest tries to retrieve their carts because they're not logged in. We don't know anything about them. We can't give them a cart or any carts. And then we can add a new product to the cart. That is as testing, getting a user's cart, creating a cart, and adding a product to the cart. So if I just quickly git add that again, git commit, just push that one back up. That is all looking good. Now is a perfect time for any potential questions. Got a little bit of time. I can go through any specific questions. And this can now be a check. And I'm just going to add in a page and episode 6 where we want the icon to be this. And now let's just put that in the right position. And put that there so we've got a bit of space. So episode 6. In this episode, we are going to carry on using TDD and event sourcing to finish off our cart functionality. There we go. And what I also need to do is open up Workbench, because I did say that I would use Workbench today. That is now running in the background. I can just pull this over quickly. We've got a new update apparently, so we may as well get that installed while we got this. Okay, so a couple of questions. Bit confused on the action part. Bernard, it's probably just you're on my Discord. Jump on Discord, have a chat with me. I can explain to you how actions work. But basically, instead of writing all of the functionality in line in my controller, where let's create the cart, let's do this, let's do that, let's do this. It's like let's push that off to an action and standardize the data that we're pushing through to it. So that if we ever create a web interface, we can do the same action and get the same result. If we do a CLI interface, we can do the same action and get the same result. It's just controlling that approach. I've done it a few times in a few of my other streams. Feel free to check out some of the other streams where most of my streams where I'm creating stuff and doing a let's build. I am using actions. Oh, that's just taking too long. Why are you being so slow? Okay, so next question. Brian, if a user isn't logged in, it won't return a cart. Should it just create a new cart, or are you adding a rule to say guests can't have a cart? So if a user isn't logged in, it won't return it. Yeah, so basically, Brian, what we've got is, if I take us back through it quickly, is I'll go through the test because it's probably a lot more easy to understand than the test itself. So create a cart for an authenticated user. This will, when you create a cart, it will return you a cart. However, if the front end session changes, whatever's controlling your front end and controlling integration with the API, if that disappears, if that says, okay, now I don't know who you are, you don't have a cart as far as I'm aware, that cart is now abandoned. That cart is just kind of a floating cart that is going to go through the prunable process every 30 days. Yeah, that's it. So return the cart so basically the idea is, if you are logged in, you can hit the cart endpoint and get your cart. So let's say you add items to your cart because you're a logged in user. You go away for a week, you come back, you log back in, and you want to see your cart. You go get your cart and you can see your cart. Whereas a guest user cannot do that. They're going to have to create a new cart. Guests can have carts, but only for the lifetime of their session of interaction. Whether you save that in local storage, however you do that from a front end perspective, how you control guest carts, that's then this, because this is an API, this is now no longer making those decisions for you. That is down to an integration detail. So nice and easy. A little bit more kind of never mind from a API perspective, but it makes it a little bit easier. Oh, I don't want to have to do that. Workbench, will you please run? Not now. So I am going to just open up shop. So here is Laravel Workbench. So I can come through, and if you have a quick look, just come to here, get status, nothing. If I run code format, come down to PSR 12 because that's my preferred. I can ask it to run. I know it's available. I'll sort it out later. It will do that. And also, Workbench. So I'll show you now. So that build complete. If I do a git status now, bam, it's modified all these files. I can do a git add, and within here we can say formatting to PSR 12. But so Workbench, the idea of Workbench is that I could go through my entire code base and just upgrade bits of code and say, okay, property promotion, run that. Let's see what happens. And brilliant, yeah, no problems. Sometimes I rush through things because I'm streaming. It's a new process for me. I've been doing it for a good few months, but I'm still learning to do it the right way. I'm very much used to just kind of flying through and doing stuff sometimes. So that wasn't needed. So what I typically do on a day-to-day basis is if I need to do anything, I can come into here and say, okay, so I want to adopt anonymous migrations. So, let that do its business. This will prepare the build. It will go through. Cleaning up, preparing the output. If I come here, you can see all of these have now changed. So now if I do like a cat that and there's a pipe that through more, you can see is now an anonymous migration. So I can git add that, git commit using push that one up. Other things that I might want to do is removing down migrations, class-based factories, actions of tuples, class-based roots, controller validation. Make sure you're using stuff like this, and what that would do, it would basically take that, create a new request class for you and stick the contents within there and allow you to just do it. It's just lots of Fluent roots, allows you to just clean a lot up. Fluent responses, so null 409, no content, command auto-loading, request injection, make sure you always injecting requests. It is free, but there is a paid plan to it. It is a licensed product. About Workbench, I do have a license for it. It is an active license, I'm using it. But there are some actions that you can do for free. And that is an awesome product by the Laravel Shift team. So Laravel Shift Workbench. Automated way to upgrade. So if I come down here to Shift Workbench, over 53 in premium tasks. So adopting type hints is a premium one. Removing dead code is premium. Adopting early returns is premium. Formatting test cases. But things like property promotion, switch to match, code formatting, all free to use. But if you want to, one really cool one is they've just released a latest shift, which is sounding really cool. So Laravel Shift pest PHP. Convert your PHP unit tests to pest. How cool is that? I did it on a couple of packages and a few things the other day. It's quite a bit of a laborious, it takes a bit of time. It's quite labor intensive. It's like, okay, convert this one. And if you've got a big test case, test suite, then, $19, just say, please do it for me. It's pretty good. The quality that comes out is really good. It's all done through PRs, so you can accept which parts you want it to do. It'll break it down, so it'll add the pest dependencies, pest class, convert test cases, remove any non-compound imports, adopt expectations API, use a test runner, and then do a cleanup. You can go through each step and say, okay, I want to keep this bit, not that bit. So you've got full control at that point. So that is what Workbench is and why I use it, because it's awesome and it just does an amazing job. Raffle. I am going to run that in about 5 minutes, and then I am going to tweet out the winner. So I had a slight issue with the raffle bird, so I'm going to have to just do something really quickly. So Laravel shift pest PHP. So here is the pest PHP converter. $19 to take away the hassle of converting your test cases. Just do it, and then obviously Workbench, which is a free product but with a premium version available, is here. So feel free to have a look. I use it. Yeah, I literally use it every day. Oh wait, yeah, here we go. I'm actually on the site. So yeah, I mean, I was going through. I was doing lots of code quality stuff, and just using Workbench meant that I saved a shed load of time. And now I just add it as part of my daily routine of, okay, end of the day, make sure all of my code's clean, make sure it's all how I need it to be and how my standard wants to be, and save. And you can actually create like a Workbench file. So I could go like create a Workbench file. Instead of doing it that way, you can do a view, window, build, editor mode. Here we go. I can add these in here, and I can do something like back. I could do, okay, so code format. I can say, okay, add that one. Then I want to add that one, and then literally I just run it once a day, builds up this, and away it goes. It's pretty cool. I do get about a bit, sorry. Speaking of getting about a bit, I should probably go spend a little bit of time with my wife. It is 9:45 UK time. I haven't seen her much today because I've been busy working and onboarding my replacement at work, so I can go work for Jump24, who have sent me some cool swag. Product placement, obviously. They've sent me a nice little coffee mug. Yeah, good to go. Right. Well, any questions? Drop me a message on Twitter. A link in the description below. There's links to Discord. Scotland PHP is still going on. I've still got about 10% discount going. I'm going to draw the raffle for the free ticket in about 5 minutes. So stay tuned on Twitter. Join us on Discord. Like, subscribe, comment. Give me a little bit of feedback. What do you want to see next? Next week, I am going to be doing a Nuxt.js stream because Nuxt.js 3 is being launched. And I'm going to kind of attempt some front-end development for a change on stream, so that could be fun, watching me fail, trying to get my head around TypeScript using a new version of Nuxt that I'm not used to. That's going to be extremely fun to watch, so tune in. Other than that, I will catch you on the internet somewhere or other. Good night.